Buongiorno everyone and welcome back to the Magpie Channel TV and welcome to Newcastle United Rodrigo Vilca, 21-year-old Peruvian playmaker, signed last night on deadline day from Deportivo Municipal in the Peruvian Primera División on a 4-year deal for an undisclosed fee believed to be around about £250,000, £250,000, which is cheap as chips in this day and age, whoever you are. He's going to go straight into the under-23s, so he's not a first-team player as of yet. He's got a lot of development to do. I've been having a read up about him, so I'm going to bring that to you, let you know exactly what kind of player he is and how his future might pan out at the club. He's only made 24 appearances in the top tier of Peruvian football, scoring 4 goals. He's a very highly promising talent, but at only 250k supposedly, it's a low-risk signing. Like, nothing bad can really come of it. He might spend a few years in the under-23s. He might never make the first team, but at that kind of price, it doesn't really matter. And the under-23s are kind of desperate for players at the minute because they're shit, to be honest. They're in the second tier of under-23 football. I think they got relegated from the Premier Division a year or two ago, but we've let out a load of kids out on loan, like Tom Allen, Kel Watts, Jake Turner, Lewis Cass, Elias Sorensen, Mo Sangare, and they've recently got beat 4-0 off Sunderland in the league. They've been beat by Crewe and Shrewsbury in the AFL Cup. So the under-23s need a lot of development. This is potentially a very good signing, because when was the last time the under-23s developed someone good? The Longstaff brothers, Dummett and Carroll were probably the last one before them two. We're just not producing good enough talent, so hopefully he can go in there, learn the English game, learn the tricks of the trade, get accustomed to the Northeast lifestyle, because that's probably one of the things that's going to be harder for him as a young kid coming from South America. He's basically a like-for-like Miguel Almiron, and it took him quite a long time, but Miguel Almiron was already quite a high standard. He was an MLS champion. He cost just over 20 million. He was quite high profile. This kid is not. It might take a lot for him. There's rumours of him potentially going out on loan in January to get a bit of first team experience, so he'll be linking up with the under-23s for a couple of months at least. It's October now. The January's coming around very, very quick, so he'll spend at least 2 months in the under-23s, potentially go out on loan. And the greatest Peruvian export himself, Nobby Solano, has spoke of him. He says he's a very highly talented lad, but he does need experience. And he even recommended him going back to Peru, potentially to Municipal, where he's comfortable, where he knows. But I think he needs to be either in England or at least Europe. Nobby says he's technically gifted, a good player, but got a lot to learn, and recommends going out on loan. Yeah, either England or Europe to learn the English/European game. Vast difference to Peru, vast difference. And he's 21 now. He needs to be learning quick. Hopefully we can get him in the first team by the time he's 23, 24, before he ends up one of these players that's a little bit too old and ends up getting sold on, like Dan Barlasa, who's just left the club. Just a little bit of background into him there. I've read up from a Peruvian sports journalist from Telemundo Deportes, Diego Montalvan, who says he wasn't highly rated as a youngster when he first signed for Municipal. He says he wasn't highly rated, but since his debut, he's showed glimpses and gained attention. Confidence has grown under the current manager, Victor Rivera, and he's been solid for 2 years in the Peruvian top tier, getting better, which led to a national team call-up in September. And he has lived in Europe. When he was a kid, he moved to Spain and spent 8 years there between the ages of about 3 and 11. Still very young to gain experience. I'm not going to say that counts towards anything, but at least he's lived in the European culture. So he's got a little bit of culture about him, but he is still very young. And his strengths recorded. Montalvan says what stands out is creative passing. He has an eye for a cute through ball. He sees gaps in defences that many midfield players would not see. He loves the ball and loves getting involved in the game. His passing percentage is 78.4, and averages 3 successful dribbles a game. But he's a little bit like a Saint-maximin in the sense that he loves getting fouled because he's tricky and quick. So people love giving him a battering, and he averages getting fouled 3.57 times per game. He's not afraid to shoot. He always has a pop if there's an opening. And like Almiron, which goes unnoticed regularly for me, he's great defensively, defensive pressuring. He averages 4.33 steals of pressuring opponents. So he's a small, skinny lad, built a lot like Almiron, but he's not afraid to get stuck in, and that all sounds absolutely brilliant to me. Like, he needs maturing. He's probably not at Almiron's level just yet, but similar build, similar height, same determination. And number 10, creative midfield player, not afraid to get back, stick tackles in, win possession, and work hard. But those things similar to Almiron also equal his weaknesses, that being his physique. He is just a small lad. He needs to bulk up a little bit. I think coming into the Premier League might be a bit too much for him, like Timo Werner on his Premier League debut when he spoke about the Brighton defenders. He shit his pants. Still took him a little while to get used to it, and he's a top tier European player. Cost 50 million at a bargain. Should have been around about 80 million if he wasn't in the last year of his contract. And he came in against Brighton. He plays Bayern Munich on a regular basis, and he shit his pants at Brighton at how tough and physical them players are and how the Premier League is. So yeah, Vilca needs to beef himself up a little bit, whether he stays in the under-23s, goes out on loan, whatever it is. He needs European experience, English experience, and his mentality is also a weakness. Like I talk about his fouls, like Saint-maximin, people love to hack him down, but that gets in his head. Apparently if he keeps getting fouled, he can get fouled out of a game. I think 1 or 2 fouls, 3, 4 fouls, he's gone. He's scared, he doesn't want to get a foot in. So he needs to toughen up both physically and mentally to be anywhere close to being ready for the Premier League. So he's the final signing, deadline day signing in what's been a relatively good window. I'll review the window now, but yesterday morning, Brucey came out and says he's happy with business, other than Vilca, which has been on the cards for quite a few weeks now while he finished out playing for Municipal. He says he's happy with business. What he did do was look into getting a centre-back on loan, which we know would be linked and almost agreed a deal with Rob Holding. Rob Holding was almost through the door. But he says with Lascelles there and Clark and Dummett close to a return, he's quite happy with the options. He's not really that bothered about getting a centre-back in. I think it might still be a mistake because we are 1 or 2 injuries away from being very, very shallow. Like at the minute, we're relying on Fernandez, even Lascelles, who picked up an injury the other day. Kraft's had to cover. So we are shallow there. It might look like sending Florian Lejeune out on loan might have been a mistake. I'm not overly against Lejeune going out on loan, but I just think on paper, Lejeune probably was our best defender. He's a solid, assured player, and he's an extra option there. He's vital for the depth of the club, but it's the injuries that's been a problem. And I think the more injuries he's been picking up, the lesser he's been becoming as a player. He's been losing half a yard a couple of times last season. I remember Leicester on New Year's Day. He just came back off injury, probably forced into the team, and he was sloppy, gave away a couple of goals. And I think the last time we've seen him was the Middlesbrough friendly, where we got beat 5-1, and you can probably directly point a finger at him for 3 or 4 of them goals. He was poor. So that's that, and we've missed out on quite a few players. We've been linked with many, many players, as Newcastle always do, and you know that you're never going to get any of them. But Ruben Loftus-Cheek, he was one we were linked with. He's gone off to Fulham on loan. I think it was about 150 grand a week wage that put that one off. Ryan Sessegnon to Hoffenheim. Chris Smalling, a centre-back we were linked with a couple of months ago. He's permanently joined Roma from Man United on an £18 million deal. Ben Godfrey was spoke about a couple of days ago. He's signed for Everton for 20 million. Michael Cousins from Bayern Munich. He had a failed medical a few days ago with Leeds, and it was expected that we might try and stick our noses in, see what we can do there, but he's gone on loan to Marseille. Gerard Deulofeu has left Watford for Udinese. And the Chelsea centre-backs have remained in Fikayo Tomori and Zuma. Tomori almost went to West Ham. That deal was agreed on both terms. Chelsea and West Ham were both happy for that deal, but Tomori turned around and said, no, I don't want to go to West Ham. I want to stay at Chelsea. So they've both stayed put, and Divock Origi has stayed at Liverpool, and so has Shaqiri. Batshuayi's obviously gone to Crystal Palace, and Ryan Brewster signed for Sheffield United. So they are many of the people that we've been linked with this summer that have not gone. But in terms of what we have done in this window, we've gotten rid of some, but actually not made any money, which is quite surprising. I think Dan Barlaser is the only one we've actually made a profit on, and I don't even know what he's gone for. It's been little. It probably hasn't been as much as what Vilca's been. I think it was about 300,000 maybe not even that. But loanees, we've let Muto go out on loan, Florian Lejeune, as I've mentioned, a bunch of the youngsters, as I mentioned before, and freebies like Colback and Rob Elliott at the end of that contract. We've still got a few in, but the window is not closed in terms of the Football League and various leagues around Europe. I'm not entirely sure which ones. I know that I heard last night on Sky Sports News that the Portuguese League is still open for another 3 weeks, and the Football League window closes next Friday on the 16th. So in terms of ins for Newcastle, business is done. We can't bring anyone more in, but we can make some outs, which I think we still need to do. There was talks yesterday of Christian Iheanacho going to Watford. That deal can still be done as the window is still open for the Championship for another couple of weeks. I'm not sure about the Turkish league, but obviously DeAndre Yedlin's still with us. There was talks about him going to Besiktas a couple of weeks ago. He's still here. There's still a Championship team, or any other league could probably still come in for DeAndre Yedlin. I'd probably like to keep DeAndre Yedlin since we haven't getting a right back in. I would have liked to have gone for potentially Nathaniel Klein, who's a free agent, expected to be picked up by Crystal Palace. He's been training there for a few weeks for fitness. It's expected that Crystal Palace are going to make that a permanent deal. But yeah, Yedlin, going into last season, in previous seasons, Yedlin's probably been my favourite right back. He's just fell out of favour since the restart. Like, after lockdown, he's been horrendous. We've known over the last couple of years defensively he hasn't been great, but you know, he's been decent enough and he's very good getting forward. It's just the last few times we've seen him, he's just looked uninterested, looks like he wants a move away. He doesn't want to be here and fight and perform for the club. So if you're going to perform like that, I'm happy for you to leave. If you want to go to Besiktas or any Championship club, great. But now that we can't get anyone in, we're very shallow at left back. And I think our first choice and our new first choice right back in Javi Manquillo, he's now also our backup left back. So Manquillo's going to take a lot of game time. He's going to take a brunt of performances this season, taking a lot of minutes. So we'll need to rotate at right back, and we've only got Kraft and Yedlin. So if we can't get another right back in, I'm happy for Yedlin to stay as long as he pulls a finger out of his arse. If he wants to stay, prove that he wants to stay at this club, that's fine by me. But there's still the likes of Henri Saivet, Rolando Aarons and Ashraf Lazar, aka the Deadwood. They need to go. Even if we just cancel their contracts, they're getting £5 million a year from this club in wages. That kind of money could go towards a loan. Loans aren't free. The ones that we've had in the past few years, like the Rose, Lazaro, Bentaleb, players like that, they cost money. There's rumours that they cost about 3, 4, 5 million to get in just on loan. So by getting rid of them, their wages alone could deal in a good loan sign for us, like a Rob Holding, someone that we might need, someone who can make this club a little bit better as long as we can afford the wages. Yes, Saivet, Aarons and Lazar, they need to be gone in the next couple of weeks before any other window closes, 2-3 weeks time. Hopefully we can get something out of those, or if not, I'd be happy just to cancel that contract to me. Jack Wilshere, he's now a free agent. He had his contract cancelled yesterday by West Ham, and he says he just hasn't been getting selected. He says he's fit. It hasn't been an injury problem, which has hampered his career over the last few years. So He's a freebie that Newcastle may want to look at getting in, but I think his wages would be way too much if we were going to get him in. We'd have to be on an Andy Carroll type pay-as-you-play deal because he's just not fit consistently enough. So they're the outs. Now let's finish off by reviewing the ones in. And obviously the big signing of the summer was obviously Callum Wilson. 20 million from Bournemouth. He's been the striker that we've needed for many a year. A goal poacher, a clinical finisher, someone who knows where the net is, knows where exactly to be in the box. 4 goals in his first 4 games. Can't go wrong. 2 of them have been penalties, being confident, cheeky penalties. A little dink the other night and a last second goal basically against Tottenham to salvage a point. Both pressure penalties really. Finished them exquisitely. Yeah, he's potentially going to be one of our biggest signings in years, along with Saint-maximin and Dubravka. He's a clinical part of this team. And I think for 20 million, it's a bit of a bargain. I think if there was, even when there was talks of a takeover, there was still talks. I know we weren't realistically going to be going in for the likes of an Mbappe and whoever else we were linked with. All these names were thrown in at the start of summer when we were meant to be getting a takeover. But I think the best way to go around that, if that was going to happen, would be to start slow, get Premier League experienced players first, and just build the team up step by step. Break top 10, top 8, top 6. I think that would be the best way to go. That's basically what Man City did when they first got their takeover. And if there's one person that was on my list back then that was ahead of Callum Wilson for me, probably would have been Danny Ings. But even then, like, that was as lockdown happened. I think Danny Ings still was on around about 16 to 18 Premier League goals, and that just didn't let up after the restart. I think he finished with 22 goals. Incredible return for a team like Southampton. I think before lockdown, his value maybe would have been at least 20 million. But after scoring 22 goals, Southampton wouldn't have let him go for anything less than 30, I don't think. Something that we probably wouldn't have paid. So that wasn't even a realistic signing anymore. I think we benefited from Bournemouth getting relegated. So I think Wilson, for as realistic as the club could have got, it's really the best signing that we could have made for what we could afford. The budget was 35 million supposedly. Then we spent that to the penny, which is why we haven't been bringing anyone else in. 20 million on Wilson, 15 million on Lewis, 35 million spent. Jamal Lewis, the other big signing for 15 million. He's come in as my first choice left back. That is a position that I'm disappointed we haven't strengthened as well. We've been linked with a few. Giannoulis from Greece. We haven't brought Jetro Willems in. I don't even know who else we're linked with. Rogerio from Italy. Lewis is a good young future star, 22 years old, only a year older than Rodrigo Vilca. He's got 1 year Premier League experience, and he shows potential. He's still got a lot to learn though. I'm not going to put pressure on his back and say he's been poor, but his positioning, defensive positioning, it's annoying for me. But he's got time. But this is why I wanted another backup in. I mentioned before that Manquillo's going to have to take the brink of that, and if Manquillo's playing at left back, then we're going to have to bring in the likes of Yedlin, who doesn't want to be here. So that's why we needed another left back in. So I'm disappointed we haven't getting another one in. So Lewis is going to have to play. I don't doubt his fitness. He's a young, fit lad, an ex-cross-country runner. He's got bags of energy, pace. He's brilliant at getting forward and whipping dangerous crosses into the box. But defensively, he gets caught out quite a lot. He's either not in the right position or he's getting taken on too many times. Like, he's a question mark for me, but we've spent good money on him. We'll be sticking with him throughout the season. Hopefully he develops well. Hopefully he can end the season highly and he can become a fan favourite. Another one is Ryan Fraser. Another brilliant signing. Partner of Callum Wilson from Bournemouth. Together they pumped goals in a couple of seasons ago. Last season, not so great with Bournemouth, but I think that was more of a Bournemouth issue. I think Eddie Howe took them as far as they possibly could, and they've lost the likes of Nathan Ake. I didn't even know who else. Ramsdale. that captain Simon Francis, Jordan Ives away on a free. It's likely that Josh King's going to be going. But a couple of years ago, Fraser was in demand. He was about 25 million bids from Arsenal. Like top clubs were putting in 20 plus million bids for him, and we've getting him on a free. I think all these signings really are major coups for this club. Wilson himself was subject to 50 million bids from Chelsea just a year ago. Lewis was wanted by Liverpool, the Premier League champions. Jurgen Klopp wanted him to back up Andy Robertson, potentially one of the best left backs in the world. So like the three huge signings, massive signings for this club. Fraser's still got a lot of work to do on his fitness, match sharpness. He didn't play a competitive game for over 8 months before lockdown. He didn't rejoin Bournemouth after the restart. His contract was terminated at the end of it. Yeah, he's got the potential. Once he gets to that level of fitness and match form, match sharpness, he can be amazing. He can be really great to this club. He's already shown signs. He got a goal on his debut against Blackburn, the winner, and he hit the post the other day, winning a penalty. Like, he's still got that sharpness, but it's still not 90-minute match sharp, which I think we need from him to really get the best out of him. Jeff Hendrick, he was my first freebie of the summer. In fact, he wasn't. That was Gillespie, but we'll go on to Hendrick first anyway. He's a good sign for free. I wouldn't have even been mad if we spent 2-3 million, 4 million on Hendrick. I think he's probably worth it. Burnley spent about 10 million on him about 5 years ago. And he's a grafter. He showed in the first game on his debut. We won 2-0 away to West Ham, opening game of the season. He got a goal and an assist. Brilliant performance, and that's what he's capable of. I think since then, the end product, like just the roundness just hasn't been there for Jeff Hendrick, but he's a grafter, and we knew that coming in. That's all Burnley fans really had to say of him. Derby fans previously as well. He's an absolute grafter. He'll run his socks off, and he has done that. He really has. If we can get a few more performances like the West Ham game out of him, then for free, you really can't argue with that. And the other freebie, Mark Gillespie, he's been great. For free, amazing. Came in to be the third choice to replace the departed Rob Elliott. And he's been amazing. Just a couple of weeks ago, he was knocking on the door to be starting. With Dubravka being out, Darlow's performances weren't really that great. Gillespie's were absolutely fantastic. Comfortable as you like. Collecting crosses, shot stopping, everything's been perfect. But with Darlow's performance against Tottenham, I think he's knocked that nail into the ground. He's cemented his spot as the number 2, the first choice when Dubravka's not there. And Gillespie let in a little bit of a howler the other day against Newport. So, yeah, but for free, a third choice, someone who I don't mind playing. If Gillespie started a Premier League game, I wouldn't really be too bothered. I trust him. I think he's safer in collecting crosses than even what Dubravka's been in the past few years. Darlow's been shaky. Other than the Tottenham game, he hasn't really been at his best. That's why I think Gillespie was knocking on the door, potentially going to replace him. So, yeah, I'm over the moon with that for free as well. 3 amazing free signings in Fraser, who I'd be happy if we spent 20-25 million on. Jeff Hendrick, I wouldn't mind spending a few million on. And Gillespie as a third choice keeper. 3 fantastic signings and £35 million, I think. Very well spent. Wilson especially, and Lewis as a future star. If I was going to grade this transfer window for Newcastle, I would give it a B-. I think what we've brought in have been great. I think the departures haven't been overwhelming. Like the likes of Saive, Aarons and Lazar, we should have been getting rid of earlier. Yedlin and Atsu as well. Lejeune, you can take that as you will. I'm not really... it's a 50-50 one for me. I think we maybe could have stayed, but I think getting his match sharpness up with the injuries that he's had over the last few years, it probably was the right choice, and we can see how he gets on at Alaves. If he can get through the season, injury harm, and perform well, then we can bring him back next season like a new signing. He can be great if he comes back fit, so I think that's probably a good choice. Muto, I would have preferred to have sold other than loaned, because he's on 55 grand a week. That's more than the majority of our stars. He's one of the highest paid players at the club. I'm not sure what the pay percentage is at Ibar. I don't know if we're still paying some of that wage. Hopefully not, but I can't imagine Ibar taking that full wage on, so I bet we'll still be paying a large chunk of it. So I think Muto is someone that hasn't got the future. He didn't even get game time last year when he was fit. Now we've got the addition of Callum Wilson. He's never going to get game time, so I would have preferred a permanent deal for Muto. Try and get some money out of him, and we could have put that towards anyone really, a Loftus-Cheek on loan. I'd have preferred a permanent deal for Muto, but it is what it is, and we missed out on quite a few. I think we still needed another backup striker. We definitely needed centre-backs, a left-back and a right-back. So that was business that should have been done that we've missed out on. Sales that we should have done that we didn't. But the ones that we've got in, can't really complain. So B- for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. How would you grade this window? And what do you make of Rodrigo Vilca? What does the future make for him? Do you see him getting the first team place in the next few years? Like this video and subscribe to the Magpie Channel TV and enjoy yourself.